Welcome back, data leaders, ChatGPT and LLM automators, and Python masters. Thinking agents, using LLMs to think and decide. Automated user creation in API, automated database query and answer, Python program from problem statements, and analyzing Pandas data frames, and much more. In Langchain library, that is the key aspect that this series of videos are discussing. There is a concept called as agents, which has tools which connects with various real world objects, files, and works like databases and Pandas data frame, and gets the analysis information directly out of the files. I will be showing the examples of these in a couple of minutes. Let me go through the various steps the agents follow in order to take decisions and actions. First and foremost, agents inside the Langchain library simply connects with the large language models like ChatGPT or TextDaVinci or Hugging Face plan models. Once it connects with the large language models, then with help of the output that it gets from the large language models, it takes the action. It then decides what kind of tool it has to search for. And then it uses the tool and then feedbacks again to LLM, and then gets the answer back. So this is actually a looping process. When I explain it theoretically, this sounds more like a routine process that the program does. However, the process is triggered using the prompts. Everything starts with the prompt that you provide, and the data that is also shared by you when you created the prompt and the agent. All these things are in your hand, and we are going to see how to create these agents, especially the agents, these 6 agents that you see here, how to create them and how to work with them. Actually, inside Langchain, there are 7 agents, but I have taken only 6 agents because one agent is kind of repetition. So CSV agent and Pandas data frame agent are kind of repeating. So that's why I did not include CSV agent here. I will explain to you each and every agent right now, how it works. So let us head to the Google Collab. The idea of sharing the Google Collab notebook, the notebook will be shared in the description in the below in the video description. Take a look at that. The idea is that you should be able to practice it by just taking the notebook and going to Google Collab environment, and start directly working on the Langchain library. So that is the main intention, and also bring up new ideas and test it immediately. So these are the intentions of sharing the code as well as the sharing the notebook, and do practice continuously with prompts, with the various agents that we are going to share, and with Langchain library and your own OpenAI. And also not just OpenAI, there are lots of language models that are out there. Do practice. I hope you guys will like my content, and do subscribe to my channel. And once you subscribe, you will be getting the feedback on new videos that I upload on a regular basis. Without further ado, let us go to the Internet Explorer. This is where it all starts. So what you're seeing here is the documentation of, let me zoom in a bit. This is the documentation of Langchain. This is the documentation of Langchain where we are looking at the agents. So agents use an LLM. So you see that they explain what exactly agents does. And agents need tool, they need an LLM, and also finally they have to work with other APIs in order to start taking decisions and start taking the data. When we read this documentation, there are lots of examples also. We can go through the examples, and you'll see that lots of examples, when you use it by yourself, you'll be astonished how perfectly it works. Okay, so that is what I wanted to share it. Even though you see the examples written here, you see the example outputs here. When you put it when you update your own data in a file like this is called the Jupyter notebook that I will be Jupyter notebook in Google Collaboratory environment. So this notebook will allow you to experiment with this kind of a documentation. So this is what the objective of this video is. Without further ado, let me you have to get your API keys from this particular platform.openai.com. If you don't have the API key, do get it. That will be required. And we will be also working with the API fast API implementation. One of the fast API implementation that I have created for testing. So this is the API implementation that is already available in the internet. So you can also test it out. The point here is that in a couple of minutes, I will show how to work with this API interface from Langchain and using LLMs. So it is taking a moment. I think it is starting up. In the meantime, if you are new to Langchain, if you are new to LLMs and ChatGPT environment and OpenAI environment, take a look at this this particular playlist in my channel. You will see that this is the sixth video that I'm uploading, seventh or eighth video that I'm uploading on Langchain specifically. Take a look at that, and this particular video will provide you a complete overview on Langchain library. So you will get a very good idea, not just the Langchain library, but the entire ecosystem around this LLMs and the way the AI is revolutionizing the prompt engineering. So this is the API that we'll be working on that I was telling. Okay, so let us go to the notebook. So you will be getting this notebook from the GitHub repo. So I'll be sharing the link for that. All you need to do is download the notebook IPNB file. It will be in this version. Download it and then upload it here. So you have to get yourself a collaboratory login, and then you have to just upload the notebook. The same notebook will be shared to you. After that, you don't need to execute this particular cell. This is there for my purpose to safeguard my API keys, but you can directly put your OpenAI API key since you are personally working. So let me zoom in a bit for your better visibility. I hope now it will be visible. So let us directly dive into the Langchain model, Langchain agents. The agents, all the agent related classes, methods, functions are inside the Langchain.agents module, and we are going to import those modules from that particular we are going to import all the agents related code and framework and classes from that modules only. Okay, so you will see that this kind of a line is the beginning of a import of an agent. So first and foremost, if you are new to Python environment altogether and you are not aware of Pandas library in Python, I have a separate video in my playlist. Take a look at that. You will get a fair idea. I will also link that video in this particular along with this particular video for your reference. So basically, what we are going to do is we have a file here. All these files, except this file, all the other files, the chinookdb.db, pirateapi.json, space_shorthand.csv, all this file will be shared along with this in the GitHub repo. And let us click on this, and you will see that this is how the file looks. Okay, this is basically a tabular column file called as comma separated value files. And this can be read into the Pandas into Python as a Pandas data frame. So this is the library that imports it. And once you read it, what will happen is inside Pandas, inside the environment, it will be like this. You can actually read it like this. And let me execute it. Space df.head will show me the first 5 rows of the data. Okay, this is how till date we have been interacting with Pandas and Pandas object. This is basically a data frame object. That is why we call it as df. However, now the things are going to change. So what is happening is I have created a object, large language model object using OpenAI class here. Okay, all I need to do is I have to have the OpenAI key here. So that is important. Only then this particular function, this particular class will get enabled and start working. I have kept the temperature equal to 0, and the model will be text DaVinci 002 by default. The point here is that by using this create pandas data frame agent class, what will happen is I am sending in this data frame also, okay, and I am asking, I can directly start querying the data frame. I don't need to do, I don't need to even read this data frame. So you can actually try it out. This is, you might have to install, one point I missed out. You might have to install, I will update this. You have to install pip install pandas, because your environment may not have pandas. I think Google Collab will have by default pandas, but still, if it doesn't have, then better install it. Once you install it, and I am asking how many rows are there, and the answer comes out as 16. And if you want to test it, it's very simple. All you have to do is there is a function called as shape space in the method called as shape. So if I execute that on the data frame, I will see that it has got 16 rows and 14 columns. And you can actually change it, and you can ask how many columns are there and what are there in the columns. The highlight is what is coming next. So here I ask, okay, here I'm asking the agent, the chain, create pandas data frame agent chain, that okay, split the name column into first and last name and tell me which has the highest frequency. So when you are actually creating these prompts, it is very important that you are very specific. Okay, when I created the first prompt, I did not mention the last name. I did not mention it as last name. I gave a space here, and the answer was wrong. Okay, so there are certain quirks in large language models still when we are going to prompt, when we are using prompts. So the best method will be to use prompt templates. Okay, here I am showing you as an example, but use prompt templates. That will make your life way more easier when you are practicing. Okay, so the intention of sharing all this code is to help you practice. So take it out there and start practicing, because I will be making one more, the next video I will be discussing about the ecosystem that is getting branded right now. And I will be trying to demystify that in the next video. So stay tuned for that. That will be an interesting video to make you understand how these things comes together when you're going to apply it in your real world. Okay. Here I'm asking, okay, do this activity. So you see the first name here, you see the names here. Where is the names? Just a minute. These names, what will happen is these names will be split automatically. So it will split it, and you will see that it is splitting. So it is using this particular command. So let me take this command. Okay, I'm going to run this, and okay, I'm going to take this command first, because it's a very long command. It has chained, it has chained it extremely well. So that is why I was telling that agents are literally thinking right now. So instead of df, I need to use space df. The model has its own way of naming things, but when you are working, you need to know that we are more intelligent than the model, right? So we must know that it is the data frame, this data frame that it is using. So if I do this name on the name, you'll see that I get a new data frame with the names split. Okay, I actually did not do anything. You saw that I just took the code from this area which it returned to me, okay, and I directly put it here. I did not do anything apart from that. I just copy pasted it and it worked. And you don't need to even copy paste it. I am showing it to you that yes, whatever code it is generating is actually correct, because at the end of the day you should know how to work on pandas also. See, the idea of sharing all these things in detail like this is to not just tell that okay, LLMs can do everything or Langchain can do everything. The idea is to show you that you have to be very very good at certain basics, especially like working with files, working with huge data files, working with Python, etc. Why? Because when a language model or any kind of language model is going to give a reply, you should know whether it's right or wrong, and you should know how to check it. That is the intention of sharing you all these things. And I am aware of Pandas data frame and how it works. I have a separate video on that also. And I know that this particular command is correct, but still I need to check it, right? So this is how you check it. And you see that we can immediately see that flat tick has come 3 times here, and the rest of the things are maximum 2 times. You can directly count it. That is why I kept the data set also small. Okay, all these are easier way to test. Next, so I had actually done this example here to show it to you guys. And if you do the value counts, this particular, instead of I had, oh, just a minute, sorry. Let me undo the delete cell. So here I have executed this particular command, and I have assigned it to the variable called name.df. And in the name.df, I use the value counts. So here it has actually gone through a different route actually. It has gone through a different route and got the answer. Okay, there are multiple ways to get the answer for every question. So finally it has found the answer, but the easiest way is to use this value counts. So you get the value counts at the top as number 3, flat tick. And this is something much more interesting. What happens is we can summarize the data. So I told that summarize, I literally simply asked, okay, summarize the data into 50 words. And it came out, it did all the statistics of the data frame by using df.descript. This also will work. Let me actually take it out and run it for you guys, and you'll see that it actually summarizes it and gives a brief overview in a human readable form. See, at the end of the day, when you have a data set in front of you, you are an analyst or you are a data engineer. You want to get an overview as soon as possible so that you can take decisions and you can start working on those columns or those area of the data that you need more support, right? And this kind of understanding by using simply English words to command is extremely powerful. Okay, and you see that it describes, it gets me all the data of the age and all this particular columns inside the data frame. So that is how the CSV file. So this is the CSV file that we start with. This is basically a text file. And same way, if I go back to the PDF for a moment, I have actually spoken about the vector store agent. I am not covering this here because it's very similar to how Pandas data frame work. Instead of Pandas data frame, vector stores are another kind of storage that I've covered in earlier videos. So you can take a look at that. So instead of using Pandas data frame and Pandas object, it will be using vector stores and vector objects to query. Okay, at the end of the day, it is 2 different interfaces and 2 different objects, 2 different way of looking at the data. The world, when you are looking at it, is never spoken like as object, data, or interface, etc. In programming world, what happens is everything after the object-oriented programming boom, everything is considered as objects, and it is very, very useful way of modeling the real world. Okay, it has worked till now, and it is even working after the large language models have been introduced, and it's working really well. So it's high time that you guys understand exactly what is object-oriented modeling, not just object-oriented language. What is object relation mapping? How objects relate, the programming objects relate with the real world. All these things you have to start imagining. So these things I had learned very late. So I urge you guys that if you are starting out into programming, coding right now, it is a good time that you start with object-oriented programming also. I'll be tagging a link of a video in this particular, along with this video, where the object-oriented programming is also explained in Python. Let us go back to the the explanation. Then, so what happens next is that there is another one type of file called as JSON files. JSON files are like this. They are, they are extremely difficult to, they're human readable. Okay, so they are human readable when it is, just a minute, let me show you. Okay, this is the actual API that I'm using, and these APIs have something called as OpenAPI standards or specifications. Every API is application programming interface, and every service nowadays actually give a API endpoint with which you can work with it. So these are the various API endpoints. And if you're new to API endpoints, I have a separate video for that also. I will share it with you guys. And you see this, that the entire ecosystem around the LLMs depends on the various other real world systems like the APIs, the Pandas data frame, the data sets, and you'll see in a couple of minutes the databases. In fact, all are things that are in the real world and it's getting connected. And it is it's just, you know, one 5 or 10 lines of code away to connect your IoT devices and start querying the data that comes from the IoT device. It's as simple as that, but you need to understand how to do the connection and how to work with them. And these videos will actually spark that inspiration and imagination. Without further ado, let me further continue. This particular API is available. You can go to this link and you can see that it will be there publicly also. It will take a little time to, you know, boot up. So, but that is the thing. And if I click on OpenAPI.json, you'll see that it is waking up. So this particular service has been, you know, given. I have hosted it on a free service basis so that anybody can approach it with a little amount of effort. Okay. So once it starts, you will start getting the complete data. So the JSON file will look like this. Okay. What I am next planning is that I'm going to give this API specification. So this is a specification for this API program. So okay, what this does is, so for an example, if I come here and if I send a GET request, so I try it out, and if I execute, you will see that it will actually go to this endpoint and get me all this data. So this is what the API is all about. Okay, if you're new to API. But I'm going to automate this. I'm not going to come here and click or do anything. Okay, in fact, this particular, I already tested it. So I had used this API where this particular endpoint to create user. I can create users using this. Okay, let me zoom in. And after I create users, I can show users. And when I try it out, when I show users and when I click try it out and execute, what happens is you'll see the various users that I had created. And you know, the last user, this user was created, in fact, by the model directly. I did not manually create it. So all these were manually created, but this was done through the data that through the code that I'll be showing right now. So that was the point of introducing the API. But in order for that code, in order for the agent to understand the API, we need to give it something called as the spec. This is the spec that we are talking about. So this spec will get automatically created when your API is created. So when you program the API, this gets created automatically. Nowadays, everything is, the regular Python programs itself is automated to a maximum level. Okay, because of the object oriented programming, lots of things have been able to, in the regular program itself, it's able to automate. But now this is with large language models and Langchain and all these new technology, it is becoming more faster in automation. So here what is happening is I am pulling in the create JSON agent and I am pulling the JSON toolkit and JSON spec. I am using the agents module as I already told, and then I am reading. Okay, first and foremost, I am reading a different data. It is called as impressions data. So that particular data I'll be sharing it. So I'm reading that data and I'm asking, okay, how many data points are there? I'm just checking how many bits are there. So almost 32,000 characters are there in that data. Okay. And when I check how is the dictionary, so dictionary is kind of a Python object where it has keys. So if I check the keys, we can see how to interact with the data set, interact with the JSON data. So what has happened is once I create this impression agent. So impression agent is basically it's a JSON agent which uses the OpenAI LLM and uses the toolkit. So this is the connection. All the agents will have the connection to the data set and connection to the LLM. That is how the agents are. So even if you go up in the Pandas data frame also, you see that there will be the dataset that we are working on, okay, the space data frame, and then the LLM. So that is how I'm creating the data frame. This is a common pattern that you will see. That is how, and moreover, the most important point is the entire data is not sent to the LLM. So you don't need to fine tune. All these are done online, literally online. So I don't need to fine tune. So after this, I ask questions directly, and you see that it starts giving me the total number of impressions. There are 43 impressions. So I ask, okay, how many impressions are there? It gives me 43, and it is right. And what is the range of impression ID? So this is something that I wanted to show you. I just asked what is the range of impression ID, okay, and it doesn't know that impression ID is a number for that matter, okay. And when I give a wrong prompt, I'm going to get a wrong answer. I asked the range of impression ID, and it went ahead and gave me the first number that it found in the impression ID, okay. It did not know that it is a range. So we have to further enhance the reply that comes from the LLM to the agent using the prompts and the output manipulation. So that is also possible in Langchain, which will be taken up as a separate video. But this is something that I wanted to share. Yes, it can do a lot of things. However, it has to be still, there are ways and room for a lot of improvement also. That is why I included this example. So this is based on the JSON file. Now, next example is based on the OpenAI callback. Okay, what is this OpenAI callback? This OpenAI callback basically tells or gives me how many tokens I am using. So if I'm going to call the OpenAI API, once I call the OpenAI API, I'm telling, okay, tell me a joke. I'm just calling that API and asking, tell me a joke. And once I execute it, I'll be sending some tokens, right? This will particular line of prompt will become tokens, and it will be sent to the API. That number of tokens I can actually keep track. By keeping track of the tokens, you will exactly know how much you're spending, because each token, when you send it to the API, the billing, the usage changes, right? The usage will come here, how the usage comes. So all these things, how it comes, how is the request going on, you can see everything here. But you can also get that information directly on the prompt itself, on your notebook itself, the Python program itself. So that is one of this example I wanted to share, and we can use it. So whenever you are running any query, so if you are running this agent query, you can use this format. So you say, okay, get OpenAI underscore callback as callback, and put the query below that, and run the agent below that, and then ask for the callback tokens. Once I run this query, you'll see I'm asking, okay, what names are available in the AID. So it will go and fetch the names. So this is the names, and it will reply telling that 4,792 tokens were used. Okay, so this will print after the agent has complete. So this is how you can use it. Okay, and this is an example that I would be discussing later. Coming to the OpenAPI agent, this is where the real fun starts. I told you about this API, right? So I have used this OpenAPI JSON that I showed here, and I had created the JSON toolkit. So initially I created the JSON toolkit and using the JSON spec here, and I use the JSON spec in this location, and I also create a request wrapper. This is again a class that is inside the Langchain model. So you see Langchain.request. This is the wrapper that works around the Python's requests module. Okay, all this, if it is new, so here it's a lightweight wrapper around requests library. So all these things you can find out. You must have a little bit of a background in Python, but you can get up to speed if within 6 months. A background in Python is not about the programming in Python. It's about the various ecosystem in which Python can work. Okay, so that is what is more important, because people always think, okay, Python is just a programming language. No, not really. Python actually moves almost most of the technological world these days. So it moves the data from various parts of this world to different location in matter of simple code lines. So Python is actually an ecosystem around that. Once you master, you can work with lots of different things. Literally, whether it is a sensor, whether it is your Raspberry Pi, whether it is your laptop, your own monitor that you're looking at this particular video, you can actually interact with these things using Python. So keep an open mind. Okay, I'll be discussing all these things in my video, because it's not just about Langchain or LLMs. It's about the overall system. Okay, that is something that I will reiterate continuously. Let us continue with the OpenAPI toolkit. This particular toolkit is also imported from the Langchain agents, as you can see here, and I am going to use this toolkit. I am creating the toolkit here. Okay, and this toolkit contains multiple things. It is containing the JSON spec. This JSON spec is coming from this particular document. This particular document is again coming from this API. You must be wondering, okay, it looks very complicated. When you set it up, once you set it up, and once you understand how the systems interact, then it will be way more easier. Okay, when initially when I was also starting to learn these things, it was extremely tough. But once you start understanding the details of each of the system, then it becomes easier. But as of now, just go with the flow. Once that is done, okay, then I'm actually creating the agent right now. So I created the spec, I created the toolkit, and then I'm creating the OpenAPI agent. This is where I'm using the LLM, and I'm using the toolkit. Okay, the pattern repeats. But here I'm asking, okay, make a GET request to pirate ethereal software.glitchme. So this particular link I'm telling, okay, I'm asking it to make the GET request. Okay, it tries a lot of time. It even finds out that it needs to make a GET request to this particular endpoint. So you see this, there is an endpoint. Just a minute, this endpoint, it actually finds it. Okay, however, as it actually searches, it gets distracted by this particular analysis information. So what happens? The data comes out that no, it cannot reply. So the answer says that it is wrong. Okay, invalid schema. So what happens is, the most important point is that it is not perfect. Okay, we have to, again, as I was telling you at the top, that when there are certain areas in the program which still needs to be improved, and the language model is still learning, we can also help it through the prompt template that we are providing. Okay, so this is also one of the points that I wanted to show. But this is just a GET request. Okay, so all I need to do is come here, I click try out and click execute. Okay, I'm not going to give any inputs. Okay, and if I execute this, what will happen is it will give me the data. I'm asking this data to be written. It was not able to do. But what I'm going to do next is, I'm asking, okay, make a post request. To post request is, you need to send the data so to this particular API, and I'm asking to create a user. And it literally found that, okay, initially it was unable to locate the information, so it was searching for the information, and then it located. Okay, so I have to create users, and after locating that we have to use create users, it actually checks for the schema that it has to follow, and it found the schema. Okay, it found the schema, and after it found the schema, it started using that schema. It started using that schema, and it started using the password and username that I had provided at the top. If you see here, I had provided the password, the user password, and it starts using that. All this is possible. Okay, where is that? It starts using that, and it actually calls. Finally, it makes a call. This is the post request. This makes a call. Okay, and gives the data. It sends the data. Data is username and password, and it creates. It creates its own email ID. I did not give the email ID, and then it completes the activity. And this was so, as I was explaining earlier, this particular user, the large language model user, was actually created automatically using the large language model by using this code that you saw here. You can also experiment by using your own code and your own LLM. That is something fascinating, guys. I'm really glad in certain ways, but because why I'm glad, because it can automate lots of testers work. Okay, you don't need to manually write these tests. You can literally say, okay, you can simply say, after you write this API program, right? After you write this API program, usually what you used to do is we have to write manual tests. We have to use other libraries like PyTest, and we have to write tests for checking whether this user is getting created or not. Okay. Now it's not required. I just have to come and say to the large language model, send a post request and get the output. So that will do the activity. But at the same time, that the activity of writing the test is no longer required. So what to do then? So how to improve ourselves to test in a different way? So this is going to be a different challenge, right? Till these days, we were testing in a set of a rigid fashion, rigid syntax and rigid processes that we need to follow, libraries that we need to follow. Now everything is removed. So we just give the information to the large language model and it is doing it automatically. So how are we going to think in a different way? So this is something that we need to also, continuously brainstorm about. Coming to the Python agent, this is the there is one more agent after this. So stay tuned, guys. This is going to be much more interesting. This is very straightforward. I'm just creating a tool called Python REPL tool, and I'm pulling in the large language model called as with max tokens of 500, because I don't want a lot of tokens to be output. Okay, so this is something that I wanted to do, and I'm directly giving the question. Write a program that automatically converts English text to Morse code, and you see the output, and you'll be astonished that yes, it actually, all this was created by the model only. And this is the Morse code. You can check it out in the internet also. This is the Morse code, and this is the function that actually converts, and it is pretty simple. When you look at it, it's not very difficult, but when you look at the question, right, we don't even get a clue like what to do, where to start, how to convert English text to Morse code. It looks very complicated, but once you look at the answer, you'll say, yeah, is it that simple? So we have to just create a dictionary and use functions to convert it. So this is the feeling that I got once I looked at the command, looked at the function. The point is, it was completely automated. So we can use this function. You can also try to copy it and use it in your environment and see how this works. And I'm pretty sure it works. Now comes the important point. So for the next step, the SQL agent, I have provided the DB, the Chinhook DB.db, that will be provided in the GitHub repo. Okay, that GitHub repo, you need to take this DB and use this particular icon to upload the data, upload the DB. Just a minute. Yeah, you need to click that and it will open up a separate window, and in that upload the database DB file that you downloaded into here. Then only you can use it. The same way also you have to upload the pirate underscore OpenAPI and space underscore shorten. Then only you can use these files. Okay. After that, you can connect it using this connection string. Then we have to again set up a toolkit. And once you set up the toolkit, and we can start querying it. So initially, I will show you the terminal also. Just give me a moment. Yeah, let me show you the terminal for this. Okay, let me go to the terminal. Before here, I've asked list the tables inside the database. Okay, let me go to the terminal now. Just a minute. I hope you guys are able to see it. So I am just listing the tables here. I am already inside the. Let me actually show you how to go into and out of the table. So I am in the file here, and if I do Chinhook DB, you will see that I have already a file called Chinhook DB in my ChatGPT underscore NBS folder, and this is the terminal that I am in. Prompt I am in, and I am using Sqlite 3, and I am using Chinhook DB. And once I do that, I am inside the database. This is Sqlite database. And in this, I'm saying tables. And once I do this, you see that I get all the 4 tables that is available. And if I use schema, I will get all the schema also. Okay. So this is how the table is. Now what we are going to do is we are going to go back to the Internet Explorer, and I'm going to ask, okay, list the tables inside the database, and you see that it lists the tables. Okay, good. That's very simple. And next I ask, okay, what are the details inside the artist table? So I asked a different question now. So it actually went ahead and got the schema. Let us check the schema. So let us go back. And if you look at the schema here for artist type, you see that this, this is the artist type schema. And it is able to directly query it from the database itself. Okay, let us go back to the browser. And then the next question, which artist has most albums? This is two things has to be linked together. The album table and the artist table has to be linked together, and then the join. Basically, you have to use joins. So it has to be joined, and then we need to query it. So here it starts. It starts by checking the artist table. It starts by checking the album table. Okay, and then it writes this particular command. This query. When you run it in the database, like how I showed you just a moment back. Let me go back to the terminal. Okay, I'm going to run it so that we can also see how it works. I'm going to, you have to add the semicolon here, and you see that you get the output, and the answer is Iron Maiden. So this is the output. Just a minute. That is the output. And let me go back to the browser. And if you see that, it actually replies that Iron Maiden has the most albums in the dataset. So that wraps up this particular video. So you might be wondering, okay, is there more to this? What is going on right now? Actually, guys, the point here is that till these days, the various systems like the internet related applications, your own local server related applications like your Python program or the database and the front end, everything was separate. Now what is happening is suddenly all these things are coming together, and in order to make this come together, we are using simple language to query the stuff. Previously you need to go to a website, but you don't need to go to a website right now. You can do it just by asking the language model. This becomes a little different, right? Previously you might have to go through a lot of steps in order to connect with the database. Okay, but now all you need to do is just give the particular connection string to the LLM and ensure that there is internet to it. It will do the rest of the activity. If you want to try it out, you can try it out by having your own Postgres database. Like how I had let me give you an example. So I am connected. This particular notebook is running somewhere in Google Cloud, right? This notebook is in Google Collab. And my, what is this called? This particular API is somewhere in Glitch. Glitch is another one company which provides services for hosting the websites at a very, very cheap cost. This particular is running in somewhere else. Okay. And all I need to do was just run this command, ask the LLM to make a post request. And how did that do? Because it was connected, this LLM was connected using Langchain and the request wrapper. So there is something called as request wrapper, as I was explaining. So it is connected using this particular tool. That is how it can actually send a request, the post request to the OpenAPI specification wise made API. Okay, that is how it could do that. So all these things are actually an existing standard that is established. But when you are given an application, it looks like magic. Assume that no one actually tells you all these things, and they just show you, okay, they don't give you any of the background. They just tell you that, okay, this is the command I am going to execute, and you'll see that the additional user will get added here. Now, what will you think? It is equal to magic, right? The point here is that what happens behind the scenes is also very, very important nowadays. And that is also one of the main reasons why I'm making these videos. I hope that you guys will like this video a lot, and do share it with others, and start prompting, guys. Start prompting with your OpenAPI, OpenAI API keys, use the Colab notebook that I've shared, practice a lot. There are lots more things to come. I'll be discussing more about how to use this in real world, how people are using it in real world. Okay, how will your work change in near future? There is already a lot of discussion going on between Google, Microsoft, Nvidia, and they are all pitching in how to modify this new landscape that has been suddenly created out of nothing. This is going to be a very big, guys. So do subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for the next video, where I will be discussing further upon how to apply this knowledge in real world, how to think about real world with large language model around you. So with that, stay tuned for the next video. Until the next video, my last 4 words always is practice, 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 practice. See you. Stay tuned.